of course, you've been with Pixar for quite a while now, but what was it about Lightyear that specifically drew you to want to be a part of the project?
Well, primarily it was Angus as a director. Angus and I went to school together. We met and became friends in art school a while ago, and we've been making movies next to each other since college. We whether we're on the same project or not, we've always been talking about films and going back and forth. And I'm like, oh, my close friend is going to make this awesome movie. I want to work on the awesome movie, and I want to work with him. So that was the big draw for me. It just knowing what a great director he is and knowing how excited I was about his pitch, I was in. It was like, how can I get things to align to be on that film?
So, director of photography, I find, is already such an interesting position in live action, but with animation, I mean, I can't even imagine what all goes into it. What are some of the biggest keys for you as a director of photography in the animation field?
It's interesting. It's the same methodology. It's the same thinking that live action and animation share, obviously. Um, in in CG, my job is split. The director of photography job is split between me, covering camera and staging, and my friend Ian McGibbon, who is the DP over lighting. And typically, that pushes those two departments to opposite ends of the pipeline because that's how CG movies are made. You film a bunch of stuff, and then you put lighting on it later. It gets animated, and every shot is lit. We really worked hard, and having both worked together on Finding Dory, we already had a relationship and a working style that we're like, okay, we can do this job better. How can we work so we're getting lighting up front to influence what the camera's doing, and camera at the same time influencing where the lighting goes? It's one DP walking around on a live action set, and there's two of us. So we have to get, it's like a three-legged race. We have to tie ourselves together as tightly as we can early so that everything feels cohesive when the movie's done, that it all feels like it was meant to look this way and not done over a series of months. So that's a big difference. The other big difference from a staging point of view is that on a set, normally the director and the actors are blocking out that scene. The actors are talking about where their character is going to be, how this is going to work. Our actors are animators, right? I mean, yes, Chris Evans is Buzz Lightyear, but he's not actually walking around and performing. He's providing the voice and the inspiration before anything else is done, obviously. So I'm and my team are responsible for each sequence figuring out, well, what is the staging of this scene? Where are we going to be in the room or in space? Or, you know, how does this fight play out between these two characters I won't name, for example? What does that look like? We rely on animation quite a bit and partnered with them on every sequence just to talk through some of those ideas, to workshop some things so that when the animators got the scene, it felt like, yeah, this is the movie we're making. These are the acting choices. We've already discussed it. It's good. Now actually act. Like now really give it the performance. So that's a little different too, because our team of layout artists is having to kind of wrangle all those pieces and assemble them for the director. When we finish layout, when it gets edited, that piece of film, that reel, becomes the template for the rest of the movie, which is pretty neat. So if we've made our decisions right, and if we've involved everyone at a high level on those scenes, now when that scene goes to effects or when that scene goes to animation or lighting, everybody's like, oh yeah, we already talked about this. Now we just need to execute it, and we need to make it better. Obviously, it's always about making it better. The other major differences for us is we work very closely with editorial, and our editor Tony Greenberg is unbelievable, and his whole team was great at collaborating. We'll send them the footage. We'll sit and talk about, here's what we were kind of thinking, and maybe something like this, and here's some other choices. They look at it and say, this is great. Man, I would love a shot like this and another one like this. And what if we try this? They're like, yes, great. I'm going to go give that to you. We may spend 3 or 4 weeks going through an editing process, or longer in some cases, bringing the director in at different points to look at it. And things are very malleable. Things are changing. You're getting in there and you're saying, that line doesn't work anymore. Let's get rid of that line. Well, what if the shot looked like this? Or now maybe that we're seeing it all together, here's a new idea. What about this? and we have the flexibility to change that. And we don't need reshoots. We don't need to, I don't need to go in front of the producers and say, hey, I'm sorry, can you get Chris Evans back? Like, I don't know, Tuesday, is he free? And we need to put him on the ship, on Buzz's ship. Wait, we threw that away? What do you mean we threw that away? Why would we do, like, okay, so I can't, oh, okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'll go find another job. Like, you can do whatever you want. You have this extra flexibility that is unique to animation. I think that's the biggest change, biggest difference.
That's quite the layers, but it sounds like it's also quite the creative freedom. That's awesome.
It's awesome.
So everybody I've talked to, especially Angus, I mean, they all seem to be very heavy into sci-fi, the sci-fi genre. Are you also of the same mindset of big geek in sci-fi?
Oh yeah, I mean, big geek and good sci-fi. When I was little, it was big geek in any sci-fi because there was nothing else. You'd go to a movie, and that was where you saw a movie. Maybe you'd see something on TV later that was all edited down and weird, but there was no internet. There was no, you could rent movies, but you couldn't really buy them when I was little. They were too expensive. They would be like $90 in the 80s, which is like, I don't even know how much that is now, but it's more than I would spend on a movie. So yeah, I grew up with Star Wars and Flash Gordon and Black Hole and Buck Rogers and Battlestar Galactica, all this stuff. If it was a sci-fi movie, I would see it in the theater because that was the thing. There weren't a ton. So a lot of that, and even the stuff that like now I watch and go, oh, that's pretty campy. Wasn't campy when I was 7. Like there's no such thing as camp. So like Flash Gordon, like I'm in. But I think there's so much in sci-fi that is just super fascinating. And a lot of that was pulled for Lightyear in terms of just thinking about how to create a world from nothing and how many different ways, looks that could be. But also Lightyear has a lot of not so much homage, but influence from film noir of the 40s in the light and shadow play that happens. Certainly in a lot of other grittier 60s and 70s films where they were perfectly happy to make half the frame black because that information wasn't needed or that set didn't look great over there or whatever it was. So, we're kind of soaking up all of these things. And what's great about Angus as a director is that he's like, yeah, I love all this stuff. How can we put it together in a way that feels new and that feels like it all belongs together, but celebrates all the things that we love about movies? Like now we have a chance to make that. So that was super exciting.
So now Angus has definitely labeled Star Wars as his biggest influence for this film. I know you also just mentioned the noirs, but did you have any specific titles that really influenced your process in finding the look of the film?
Well, he was right. I mean, Star Wars is certainly the film that made him want to make movies. And I don't know if I say the same for me, but it was a film that as a kid, like that was it. Like Star Wars, everything was Star Wars. I mean, I don't have all the photos he has available of him dressing up as various characters, certainly not into that late of an age, but I remember that day. But yeah, that was a big one. But also I mean, our team, we're looking at anything like what's going to tell the story the best way. What's the trick, or what's the how does that shot work? How, when you're staging groups of characters, we looked at a lot of Kurosawa, like how he's so controlling with movement in frame and making sure that the thing moving in the frame is the thing you should be paying attention to. And how do you choreograph all of that together? His films are very complex. So certainly we're influenced by that. I'm influenced by Spielberg's use of staging and how he will often stretch out cuts. He will delay cuts because he can reblock with the camera or with the characters. And that is really interesting to me. But the neat thing about making any of these movies is that there were like 12 or 14 layout artists on my team from all different backgrounds and all different ages. And they're all coming with their own films that they reference or their own sensibility, in addition to going back and watching all the stuff that we're talking about, like whatever it is. And it's it's neat to see a disparate group of people like that come together and help you form a single vision by bringing in all these little pieces and making it feel cohesive, making it feel like, oh yeah, the design of the movie works overall, even though at moments there may be something, like, oh, look at that shot in this anime. That is really pushing the dynamic framing. We can do that. Like, that is great. Whatever it is, it's a melting pot, if you will.
Well, I think the melting pot has come up with some amazing stuff so far. I really look forward to seeing the rest and spreading the word about it. Thank you so much for taking the time to chat, Jeremy. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Really nice to talk to you, Grant.